Hello, good morning, and many thanks indeed for joining us here on AM Live. I trust you had a lovely restorative weekend and you're ready to face this week, a challenging week, and we know that we're taking extraordinary measures as far as coronavirus is concerned. You can see with me here, we have the sanitizers also in the studio as well to just make sure that we're keeping in tandem with the prevention or the preventative measures that have been put forward. So we know extraordinary times call for extraordinary measures. Events of the past few days have compelled the government to take drastic measures to contain the spread of coronavirus disease COVID-19 as 2 new cases were discovered. The country now officially records 3 cases, signaling risks of more infections. But calmness, responsibility and reason must prevail. Yesterday, President Uhuru Kenyatta spelled out tough actions to be taken in the next 30 days, some painful but unavoidable in the circumstances. All learning institutions, schools and colleges have been directed to close. Learning in day schools will be suspended immediately, while boarding schools should close by Wednesday and colleges and universities by Friday. This is going to take a toll on academic programs, but is inevitable. Collectively, learning institutions have about 15 million learners, nearly a third of the population, making them the largest single entity with the highest concentration of people in the country. Now, in recent years, especially on the backdrop of free primary education and 100% transition to secondary schools, the institutions are highly populated and that present serious health threats. Classrooms and dormitories and hotels are congested, creating a conducive environment for the spread of the virus. Controlling the spread in such a setting is extremely perilous. The responsibility of managing the learners now shifts to parents, individuals and communities. Already, the Health Ministry has issued guidelines for personal care, including hygiene and responsible behavior. It is incumbent that this be observed. The government has also banned foreigners from coming into the country. Other than nationals returning back, visitors have to keep away for some time. Effectively, this will heavily impact on international travel. But that is what others have done. Many countries have stopped foreign nationals from entering their territories in a bid to minimize contacts that could prove lethal. The United States, for instance, banned flights from the European Union, and that effectively locks out most of Europe's nationals. Harsh and punitive, but inescapable. Conversely, Kenyans have to cut foreign travel unless it is absolutely necessary. Other measures announced include a ban on public gatherings such as political rallies, religious crusades and funerals. The government and all employers have also been directed to allow employees to work from home, especially for non-essential services. Now, the courts have also minimized operations. Clearly, these have far-reaching implications, which is why the public has to be understanding and accommodative. So we want to engage on this particular discussion on how we are going to try and also, of course, be complementary to the efforts from the government in trying to fight and combat coronavirus in the country as it is. It is a transnational threat, and we can see many countries right now. Italy, Spain is on lockdown. Also France, it is on lockdown as well. And other countries also in Africa are reportedly also presenting this particular symptoms of coronavirus with new cases also coming to the fore. Right, we want to buckle down to what we shall be looking at also as far as the paper review is concerned. All this is happening up next in This Is a Point. Just as I read from the intro there, all schools are shutting down beginning today. Also, that will be followed by the universities on Friday, colleges on Wednesday. All schools shut as lockdown begins. Tough fight. President Kenyatta announces a raft of measures to contain coronavirus after 2 more cases are confirmed, restricts travel from all countries with reported infections, and urges Kenyans to make cashless transactions and to avoid gatherings. Also, day schools closed today, boarding students to be home by Wednesday, universities to close by Friday. That is what the flagger reads on top here. You have a full coverage of this on page 2, 3, 4 and 5 of a Daily Nation today. Measures are here, Lockout visitors, only Kenyans and residents will be let into the country. Courts closed. Judiciary suspends hearing of cases in open courts. Also ban on gatherings, avoid gatherings, including weddings and funerals. Work from home if you can. Employees, except those providing essential services, urged to work from home. That is the new measures there. You can have that story, as I've mentioned, on page 2, 3, and 4. Also 5 of the Daily Nation. We have a bite here from President Uhuru Kenyatta, and momentarily we shall be playing you the entire speech he gave yesterday. He says here, quote unquote, "Let us remember that as Kenyans, we have been faced with other crises in the past and have always triumphed, but by coming together in the spirit of national unity and cooperation. Let us remember that as Kenyans, we have been faced with other crises in the past and have always triumphed by coming together in the spirit of national unity and cooperation." This is how the Daily Nation looks today. Make sure you grab a copy for yourself. On top here, also countdown as team works on referendum bill. Proposed changes may be out before June, when the committee's term ends, which will then allow 1 million signatures to be collected to kickstart the process. The story continues on page 6 of the Daily Nation. The scramble for Del Monte's land starts. Everyone wants a piece of it. It's prime, worth billions of shillings, and by June 2022, its lease will expire. Who will be the ultimate owner of Del Monte farm in Thika? That is a big question. And all the story continues on page 10 and 11 of the Daily Nation this morning. Let's move on quickly and see what we have on the front page of the Standard. Shutdown is a splash today. It says tough measures. 2 more test positive. Schools closed and international flights banned for 30 days as Kenya edges closer to a total lockdown with drastic measures to contain coronavirus. The story is well fleshed out for you on page 2 and 5 of the Standard today. The new directives here, I've learned some of them also from the Daily Nation. Here you can learn more also on the front page of the Standard. Learning suspended in all institutions. Directive effective today in day schools, boarding schools on Wednesday, and universities on Friday. All inbound flights from countries with coronavirus cases barred for 30 days. Also, only Kenyan citizens and foreigners with valid residence permits will be allowed entry. For foreigners and residents who came into the country in the last 14 days must self-quarantine. Government offices and private companies encouraged to let employees work from home except those in essential services. 6, encourage the use of cashless transactions to limit contact with paper money. Also, avoid crowding in public places like churches, shopping malls, entertainment places, weddings and funerals. Also 8, limits visit to public and private hospitals. Those are the new directives. We have the president saying here, quote unquote, "This pandemic will test us, as it is testing all countries in every corner of the world. But I do not believe it will defeat us. If we pull together and everybody does their part, we shall overcome its worst impact." And we are all standing in solidarity with the president on that particular note. And we can see him here, no shaking hands. Right, President Uhuru Kenyatta greets health, CS Mutahi Kagwe and ICT's Joe Musheru. Moment before announcing drastic measures to contain coronavirus yesterday in Nairobi. This is how the Standard looks today. Shutdown is a splash. Also on top here, Ronaldo turns hotels into hospitals. Juventus and Portugal football star offers his luxury hotels to accommodate coronavirus patients in his home country. This is a star power doing good. You can follow the story on page 40 of the Standard this morning. Let's move on swiftly. See what also we have on the front page of the... That is, we have the Star for you. Let me try and just get that quickly for you. And this is what is on the front page of the Star. Schools shut and travel limited as corona cases hit 3. That is what we have on the front page of the Star. Pandemic, more than 6,000 have so far died from the virus globally. President announces travel ban from all affected countries to contain spread. You have this story continuing on page 6 of the Star this morning. And this is the turnout yesterday in some of the churches here in Nairobi. Coronavirus fear keeps faithful from church. half-empty deliverance church in Umoja, Nairobi. During the third service yesterday, churches supplied soap, water, and sanitizers. This is where I also used to worship a long time ago. And you can see how the congregation did not really turn out in force as it normally does. This is the current state of play as far as bugbears and fears of coronavirus is concerned. That is what we have on the front page of the Star this morning. Also lifting costs of the crucial two-wheeled contraptions. When they were allowed into the market in 2009, motorcycles revolutionized the public transport sector, offering cheaper and faster alternatives to matatus and cars. They could weave through maddening city traffic and access often impassable routes in remote places. Find all the details on page 4 and 5. Lifting costs of the crucial two-wheeled contraptions. Also, 99% of rape and defilement survivors do not seek help, it says here. This is fear and shame. It says 99% of Kenyans, girls aged between 15 and 19 who survive forced sex and violence don't seek professional help. The reasons include fear of retaliation, guilt, shame, fear of being blamed, lack of confidence in their abilities or willingness of professionals to help, and lack of faith in law enforcement. That is a story that you want to follow on page 3 of the Star this morning. This is how it looks. Also, big read, how Japan will help ease traffic in Mombasa. Find all the details tucked away on page 12 and 13 of the Star. Let's grab the People Daily and see what the splash is. This is what you're waking up to this morning on the front page of the People Daily. Where are you? There we go. Schools now shut in corona lockdown. Schools now shut in corona lockdown. That is what we have on the front page of the People Daily. Pandemic. President confirms 2 new cases of virus, bringing the total to 3 as he announces a raft of stringent measures to keep it away or keep it at bay. This story continues on page 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7 of the People Daily this morning. And this was the president yesterday addressing the media yesterday at Harambee House in Nairobi, where he confirmed 2 more cases of coronavirus. Health Cabinet Secretary Mutahi Kagwe, Cabinet colleagues, and top government officials were present. And how Kenya is fighting virus, it's important. It bears repeating more and more for you to just be aware. Schools, first closure of schools, colleges this week. Judiciary scales down the hearing of cases. Travel suspended. Only Kenyan citizens and foreigners with valid residence permits are exempt. Shun public gatherings, including churches, funerals, political rallies, social functions. Employers asked to allow employees to work from home on case basis, apart from those in critical essential services. Provision of sanitizers, water and soap for hand washing at shopping malls, hospitals, and other public places. And this is also just an illustration of how you can protect yourself. Wash your hands. Use a tissue for coughs. Also avoid touching your face. All the details also are contained inside the People Daily this morning. This is how it looks. You can grab your free copy. Also on top here, global paralysis. Austria bans gatherings of more than 5 people and orders schools and most shops shut. In the UK, over 70s to be asked to self-isolate for an extended period. Health Secretary says this. In France, voters go to the polls for local elections in France despite widespread coronavirus restrictions. Also USA, a new screening requirements for Americans returning from Europe lead to long queues at airports. Also, we have Australia orders 14-day quarantine for all new arrivals starting at midnight on Sunday. That is what we have on the front page of the People Daily this morning. Let's move on. We see what we have on the front page of the Business Daily. Virus hit NSE stocks shed 573 billion shillings. That's a big one. Virus hit NSE stocks shed 573 billion shillings. Safaricom, KCB, Equity, and EABL accounted for 72% of the paper wealth erosion. Stock listed on the Nairobi Securities Exchange have lost 573 billion shillings of their value over the past 2 months as the spread of the coronavirus and other economic headwinds spark an exit of foreign investors. The value of all stocks on the Nairobi bourse stood at 2 trillion shillings on Friday compared to 2.6 trillion shillings on January the 10th, the peak season so far this year. So we can see this is really eating away also on the stocks at the Nairobi Securities Exchange as well. This is just the blowbacks of coronavirus as it stands right now. Also globally, we can see the international indices also are affected adversely by this. We'll give you details of this also later in the course of the program. And we have top losers in the 2-month period. That is Safaricom leading there with 338.5 value shared, equity following 48.5 value shared, ABL 15.8, KCB 39.6, others 130.5, and the total is amounting to that particular eye-popping figure of 573. Safaricom shared the highest amount, pushing its market cap to below 1 trillion shilling. 1 trillion shillings. That is what we have on the front page of the Business Daily. We are smarting out of this coronavirus effect, and this is a reality on the ground. Corona, it says here, Huru shuts borders, closes schools. Government has banned the entry of travelers from coronavirus hit countries, close schools indefinitely, and encourage work from home after 2 additional cases of COVID-19 were confirmed in Kenya. The story is tucked away on page 4 of the Business Daily this morning. And let's look on the ticker. What is ticking this morning? Mobile money payments drop. Use of mobile phones in making payments dropped in January on the back of low circulation of cash in the economy. But this is bound maybe to increase right now, since also we're being encouraged to do a cashless, I should say, transfer of money. So that is bound to also go up. This is on page 5 of the Business Daily. Also, we have 150 million shillings. That is a digit. The number of mobile money payment deals in January dropping by 4 million shillings. And CMA to reduce audit frequency for strong firms. Firms with a record of strong standing will be spared the annual governance audit in the fresh Capital Markets Authority guidelines that propose spacing of such checks by up to 5 years. The story continues on page 8 of the Business Daily. Treasury pushes for assets register. The Treasury has launched a fresh bid to create a data bank of public assets as Kenya moves to protect taxpayers from fraudulent acquisition of its property by private developers. This story continues on page 19 of the Business Daily. All right, KRA warns 5 banks in Keroshe 9 billion shillings row. The Kenya Revenue Authority has threatened 5 top banks with a multi-billion shillings penalty over their dealings with Keroshe breweries in the push to collect 9 billion shillings in unpaid taxes. KRA has given the banks up to April the 11th to transfer cash in Keroshe's bank accounts to the agency's coffers. The taxman says the 5 banks, that is Absa Kenya, Equity Bank, Diamond Trust Bank, Cooperative Bank and Standard Chartered Bank, will pay 9 billion shillings should they fail to comply with the transfer order. You can follow the story on page 4 of the Business Daily. Let's cross borders a bit. We go to Tanzania and Uganda, see what also we have there. Government designates hospitals in readiness for COVID-19 is what is a splash on the front page of the Citizen. The government has designated special hospitals in every zone to handle any possible case of coronavirus as part of precautionary measures against the viral disease. The story continues on page 2 of the Citizen this morning. February 14th, that is the date this year when the first case in Africa was reported in Egypt. Deaths in African countries so far, the number of reported deaths in Africa stands at 5, namely in Egypt, that is 2, Algeria 2, and Morocco 1, and 6,000. That is the number of people who have so far died of COVID-19 worldwide since the viral disease first broke out last year, according to the World Health Organization. Follow the story on page 2 of the Citizen. Remember, urgent public health notice also is given here. Wash your hands frequently, regularly, and thoroughly clean your hands with an alcohol-based hand rub or wash them with soap and water. Why? Washing your hands with soap and water or using alcohol-based hand rub kills viruses that may be on your hands. And if you have fever, you're coughing, shortness of breath, or a sore throat, make sure also you report or you go to the nearby hospital for checkup. That is a story that you can follow inside The Citizen this morning on page 2. Also, Bunge Committee visits Dar Mineral Trading Center, and Mde Bulaya in hot water again. Also inside, former CRDB boss may offers banking management tips in new book. You can follow the story inside The Citizen in Tanzania. Let's see also the Mwananchi, which is still in Tanzania as well. Well, I don't seem to be having Mwananchi for you, but we can cross over now to Uganda and see what the Daily Monitor is holding for us. This is the splash on the front page of the Daily Monitor in Uganda. Lieutenant General Tumukunde collapses in custody. Poor health, it says here. The former security minister and retired army officer who was arrested with 15 others last Thursday is now admitted to Kololo Hospital in Kampala. The story continues on page 6 of the Daily Monitor. Also, Kazimba cautions churches on coronavirus. Country on high alert, travelers avoid NTV. Kenya registers 2 new cases as virus spreads, it says here. Special coverage of this on page 2, 4, 5, 6, 31, 34, and 43 of the Daily Monitor in Uganda. You can see a related picture. This is a volunteer helping Christians sanitize their hands before attending Mass at Rubaga Cathedral in Kampala yesterday. That is in Uganda. What is happening in Rwanda? Government owes 33 billion Rwandan francs in expropriation fees. The government owes a total of approximately 33 billion shillings in arrears incurred to locals in expropriation fees. This is what the New Times is learning. Expropriation is done by the state in order to pave the way for public interest projects such as roads, energy projects, and other public infrastructure projects. Coronavirus. Students return home. Bus passenger numbers cut by half. We can see here health practitioners screening students at Kigali Stadium in Nyamirambo after returning from schools to prevent spread of the coronavirus. The Rwanda Utilities Regulatory Authority, that is RURA, has also directed that the number of passengers in on-public buses reduce from 70 to 39. This is in a bid to make sure that at least the distance, observing the 1 meter distance is adhered to. Part of the social distancing measures, and that is a story that you can follow also on page 3 of the New Times this morning. Make sure also you grab a copy of East African, the new look of East African. This is it is Malema. I am ready to die for Africa's liberty, he says. And he says, quote unquote, I won't be around forever. I want to lead. Every teacher wants to become principal. Firebrand South African politician reveals his dream for Africa. You have a story continuing on page 4 and 5 of the East African this week. Also, coronavirus fears put off EAC heads of state summit. Remember, they've been slow on the uptake as far as this summit is concerned. For the second time, they haven't met. Now, coronavirus also is adding another tripping wire. Global scourge close home as Kenya reports first case. Rwanda has done so, and so is Ethiopia right now. Also, Talos pain. Oil falls below break-even price. Bad news for Kenya and Uganda as flight between Russia and Saudi Arabia pushes petroleum below commercially viable rate. The story continues on page 4 of the East African this week. And you have also a book serialization here, Combatants, a memoir of the Bush War and the press in Uganda. Museveni's Bush War, new book by veteran journalist William Pike, recaps rebels' fight for Uganda's soul. And also in the magazine, you have the return of Kofi Olomide to East Africa, and also opinions are here. You can also look at the new segments, money, banks in mergers and acquisitions, industry in Kenya on a buying spree, and also Outlook magazine, India's thriving medical tourism, Africans head east, I should say, for affordable treatment. And in the markets, COVID-19 effects felt around the world, panic sweeps, Bowser's crashing stocks. You have the story continuing on page 49 of the East African this week. Those are your dailies. Make sure you grab a copy of the Daily Nation. I'll be remiss if I don't show you also the latest copy of the Time magazine. This is how it looks, featuring Diana. That is Diana, Princess of Wales, the People's Princess, 1987. This is how it looks. This is a commemorative edition there of the Time magazine, featuring Princess Diana. Also, in Latin America, the right medicine for the world economy. This is what is on the front page of The Economist. Joe Biden's remarkable comeback. Remember that today they're going toe-to-toe with also Bernie Sanders on the Democratic debate there. Also, why NATO should help Turkey, the battle for African democracy, Jack Welch, a troubled legacy. All that is featured inside The Economist as well. Those are the magazines that you can grab a copy of, and I'll show you momentarily also what we have on the front page of the Newsweek as well. But for now, those are the magazines. But Laughter and Levity is up next. Great, let's see what we have inside the Star this morning. Knock, knock, knock. This is what has been drawn by Ozone inside the Star today, and we're all trying by every ounce of energy to push out the coronavirus and its impact in Kenya. That is a map of Kenya, and this is a Kenyan, I should say, or everyone knows right now this is a civic duty that we are all to take part in trying to prevent all the spread of coronavirus in the country. This is inside the Star this morning, according to Ozone. Let's see what we have in the Daily Nation and other dailies as well. The editorial cartoonist. This is what we have inside the Daily Nation today, according to Iger. Public gatherings, and we can see that lock is all about coronavirus, and the BBI also, which has been adversely affected by the coronavirus. We can see public gatherings no more, and this is what Iger has done for us this morning inside the Daily Nation. Swiftly moving, let's see what we have inside the Standard today, and this is what Gatto has drawn for us. It's a win-win situation. We can now blame all our problems on this thing, coronavirus. Right, so it's a win-win situation. Coronavirus has actually tempered now the political tone and tenor in the country as it is. Everyone is putting every effort to try and make sure that the spread of the virus is contained. This is in the Daily Nation today. Lastly, let's see what we have inside the People Daily. This is what Stano has drawn for us. And it's all about also coronavirus as well. That is what we have inside the People Daily. To fail is not an option. I must destroy you forever. To fail is not an option. I must destroy you forever. All right, we want to see if you have the newsroom for us. We just hack back into history and see what we have on the front page of the... Oh, we hack back into history and see what we have inside from our archives. That is the Daily Nation for you. I'm given to understand we don't have the newsroom, but we'll go straight to hear what the president said yesterday. And we are all aware that President Uhuru Kenyatta has announced the first measure the government is taking in a bid to curb the spread of the coronavirus in the country. Top among them is the immediate suspension of learning in all institutions across the country. President Kenyatta has also given strict guidelines on travel into the country. That includes denial of entry to self- and government-sponsored quarantine. This among 8 measures the president announced after a third case of the virus was reported in the country. Let's listen in.
Following the results of the 2 additional cases, we are now, this evening, directing the following additional protocols. Number 1, the government is suspending travel for all persons coming into Kenya from any country with reported coronavirus cases. Number 2, only Kenyan citizens and foreigners with valid residence permits will be allowed to come in, provided they proceed on self-quarantine or to a government-designated quarantine facility. This will take effect within the next 48 hours to cater for any passengers who may be en route. This directive will remain in effect for the next 30 days or as varied by the National Emergency Response Committee. Number 3, all persons who have come into Kenya in the last 14 days must self-quarantine. If any person exhibits symptoms such as cough or fever, they should present themselves to the nearest health facility for testing. Number 4, we have suspended learning in all our education institutions with immediate effect. Consequently, and to facilitate a phased approach, primary and secondary day schools are to suspend operations from tomorrow. For those in boarding schools, the school administration is to ensure that students are home by Wednesday, the 18th March 2020, while universities and tertiary institutions are to close by Friday, 20th March 2020. Where possible, as number 5, government offices, businesses, and companies are encouraged to allow employees to work from home, with the exception of employees working in critical or essential services. Number 6, in order to avoid the risk of transmission through physical handling of money, we encourage the use of cashless transactions, such as mobile money, M-Pesa and otherwise, and credit cards, and we appeal to mobile operators and banks to take note of the situation that we are in and to reduce the cost of transactions during this period. Number 7, in line with the directive to avoid crowded places, citizens are encouraged to A, avoid congregating, including in places of worship, B, minimize attendance to social gatherings, including weddings and funerals, and restrict the same to immediate family members. C, we call for people to avoid crowded places, including shopping malls and entertainment premises. And D, to minimize congestion in public transport whenever possible. And lastly, E, the limitation of visitors to hospitalized patients in both public and private hospitals. Number 8, hospitals and shopping malls are encouraged to provide soap, water, hand sanitizers, and ensure that all their premises are regularly cleaned and disinfected.
Now, the country has confirmed its third case of coronavirus as 27. Others remain quarantined for having been in contact with the first confirmed case. Further, the government has directed a scale down of essential services. President Uhuru Kenyatta has said sufficient measures have been put in place to contain the spread of the virus.
We had traced 27 persons who had come into contact with the first patient. We have since tested all 27 people at our National Influenza Center, and today we have received confirmation of 2 more cases of the coronavirus. Our health officials have already moved them into Kenyatta National Hospital Isolation Facility. Any patient who has come into contact with this disease will be given full support to ensure that they are able to recover. Some of the measures that we have taken today may cause inconvenience, but I want to assure you that they are designated and designed to ensure that we effectively contain the spread of this deadly virus. Competition Authority has already been given clear instructions, and they will be moving around. And anybody who is seen to have taken unnecessary and undue advantage of this particular crisis to make our citizens pay more than they should, serious and severe action will be taken against those who perpetuate in that ungodly act.
And so the coronavirus has effectively brought the already slow-moving wheels of justice to a grinding halt, following a pronouncement by the National Council of Administration of Justice that all criminal and civil appeals, hearings, and mentions in all courts stand suspended. There is, however, a sliver or a silver lining for remandees and those incarcerated for relatively minor offences as the council moves to decongest prisons. These are the measures the judiciary is taking to guard against the spread of COVID-19.
Courts will continue to handle certificates of emergency and taking plea in serious criminal cases. However, there will be no open court appearances. Magistrates' courts will also review bail terms for those who are in remand.
Our Deputy President took the gospel of hand-washing and general personal hygiene to the Friends Church in Langata in the face of the coronavirus. The Deputy President exhorted the public to follow the government's directives on the virus to the letter.
At the center of how to prevent and manage the challenge of the coronavirus is personal hygiene, to make sure that we wash our hands regularly, use enough soap, and avoid unnecessary contact with people when it is not necessary. Tulikuwa tunasema tusalimiane hewani, nafikiri sasa hiyo ndio itakuwa salamu kamili, hiyo ya kusalimiana hewani.
Right, across the borders, President Cyril Ramaphosa has announced that South Africa will close its borders from Wednesday to all foreigners from countries highly impacted by the coronavirus pandemic. Visas will be denied to anyone who has visited a high-risk country in the last 20 days, and 35 of the country's 53 land ports will also be shut as of Monday. The president also announced the closure of schools for around 3 weeks starting Wednesday. Public gatherings of more than 100 people will be or have been banned, and mass celebrations cancelled to limit contact. To date, 61 people in South Africa have tested positive for novel coronavirus, the second highest number of cases in Africa after Egypt, which has reported 110 so far. The number of infections more than doubled over the weekend, with 37 new cases announced. Around 50 of South Africa's coronavirus patients have recently traveled abroad. Most came from Europe, the new epicenter of the virus, while others had returned from the United States and the Middle East. But Ramaphosa suggested that the latest confirmed cases had contracted the virus in South Africa.
We've decided to take urgent and drastic measures to manage the disease, protect the people of our country, and to reduce the impact of the virus on our society and on our economy. We have now declared a national state of disaster in terms of the Disaster Management Act. This will enable us to have an integrated and coordinated disaster management mechanism that will focus on preventing and reducing the outbreak of this virus.
And Qatar will bar entry to arriving air passengers except citizens from Wednesday, the government said, as it announced a 23 billion economic stimulus in response to the new coronavirus. Lola Al-Hatter, the Assistant Minister of the Finance, announced this. The country is the worst affected in the Gulf Cooperation Council, GCC, with 401 confirmed cases of the COVID-19 as of Sunday. It has not reported any fatalities, but has closed universities, schools, gyms, and cinemas, as well as cancelling many public events, including the MotoGP. The measure could be extended at the end of the initial 2 weeks period, she said, and will be accompanied by a 23 billion economic stimulus package that will include $2.75 billion to shore up the stock market.
Decisions suspending flights, inward flights to Qatar starting from Wednesday evening, the 18th of March, for 2 weeks, and then this will be assessed again in 2 weeks. From that, exempted are transit flights, cargo flights, and Qatari nationals who want to come back to the country.
Pope Francis left Vatican City on Sunday to pray in a Rome cathedral for coronavirus victims as Italy's death toll hit a one-day high of 368. The 83-year-old pontiff's unannounced visit to a church with a crucifix from the times of the Great Plague came with Italy's hospital running out of beds and the entire nation of 60 million under effective lockdown. Only occasional joggers and few locals carrying groceries bags could be seen on the streets of Rome in what has fast become Italy's biggest crisis in several generations. Official data showed the number of fatalities in the Mediterranean country shooting up by 368 to 1,809, more than half of all the fatal cases recorded outside China. The Vatican took the drastic step of cancelling Easter week celebrations that were set to begin on April the 5th as the country braced for the worst. Pope Francis has been suffering from a cold for more than 2 weeks and communicating with the world's 1.3 billion Catholics via Livestream. But the Vatican said the pontiff appeared at Rome's Santa Maria's Maggiore Basilica and then walked on foot as if on a pilgrimage to the San Marcello al Corso Church. It explained that the Pope selected the church because it holds a miraculous crucifix, which in 1522 was carried in procession through city districts to mark the end of the Great Plague. The Pope prayed for the end of the pandemic that affects Italy and the world, imploring for the healing of the many sick and remembering the many victims, according to the Vatican. Italians are beating the social isolation imposed by the country's coronavirus lockdown by taking to their windows and singing in unison, with videos of the phenomenon racking up thousands of views online. Since Monday, a series of decrees from the Italian government have drastically limited citizens' movement, with vast swaths of the economy shut down and people instructed to leave the house only when strictly necessary. All cultural events have also been suspended, prompting some celebrities to start organizing online performances and museums to put virtual tours online. Another attempt to boost morale and has now come in the form of impromptu music at people's windows. One recording in the Tuscan city of Siena has been viewed over 600,000 times on Twitter. In it, residents sing the traditional Canto della Verbena about the city from their windows, including a rousing verse with the words, "Long live our Siena." Italian singer Andrea Sanino posted a compilation of his Instagram feed of people singing his song Abbracciami, which means, or translation will be, "Embrace me," at their windows in the southern city of Naples, his hometown. In another video, purportedly, of an apartment building in the northern city of Turin, residents can be seen on their balconies trying to perform a Macarena, a Spanish dance song, in unison. Right, we have our guests already here in studio. They've been here for the longest time, but of course we have to go through the papers and carry those stories for you, just to keep you updated on what is happening on the ground as far as coronavirus is concerned. Also, we'll be joined this morning by Job Nyagenya Omanga, who is a public health officer from Denton County, Texas, just to give us a feel of what is happening down on the ground as far as precautionary measure is concerned. We know also that America is on lockdown right now as it stands, but he's a Kenyan who actually is working there, and we can try and compare notes how they're faring and also how we're doing here in the country. But here are our panelists this morning. Right, our panelist is already here with us. Also, as I mentioned, we have Job Nyagenya Omanga from, that is Texas. He's a public health officer, Denton County, Texas. He will be joining us together with a panelist here also to give us just a snippet of what is happening in Texas. As I mentioned, he's a public health officer there. But let's just get to also greet our panelists. Good morning, gentlemen and lady. Good to see you. Right, so I hope now everything we've taken also precautionary measures as far as the sanitization is concerned. Briefly also I'll be coming with my my hazmat gear to try and spray all of you. Maybe even moving forward, we'll be wearing the hazmat as well when you're in the show. It's supposed to be 1 meter, right? So we need to take also those social distancing measures very, very seriously. But it is here with us, gentlemen, and lady, and we need to be taking precautionary measures as it stands right now. The president has given us a list.
Start with lady and gentlemen.
Lady and gentlemen,
Yes.
all right. Lady and gentlemen,
Yes,
all right.
it's easier.
It's easier, rather than gentleman and lady.
Yes.
Fantastic, thank you for that correction, Alice Wahome. But good to see you, right? So on Friday, when you heard about the news, what was your reaction? Let's just begin with you, Dr. Nyikal.
When we heard the news that a case had been identified in Kenya, well, my reaction was that, well, here it is, because really all along we were expecting that it would happen, as we were saying earlier in various fora, that it was a matter of when, not if. And considering the travel that we had, it was expected to happen. However, my reaction was, now we are going to have an extremely big challenge, particularly when this person had traveled across the country and had met many people. And two, I was worried that if now we get to a level where people are sick and get very sick,
yes,
and I know that the measures the government has put in place in terms of prevention are okay, but I know there definitely will be a challenge when it comes to taking care of very ill people. Should we get to the extent that people need to be admitted, and those who get very, very sick in ICU, I think there would be a capacity problem of the number of ICU beds that will be needed, and the staff that will be needed with, and the equipment that will be needed with. And I was also aware and expected that sooner or later,
yes,
we were going to have some form of shutdown. I was expecting that schools would close. I was expecting that we would restrict our churches or even close them. So to some extent, to me, it wasn't a big surprise. It was what we were expecting, but dreaded, and it had arrived. And as I said, I think the only worry that I have now is the possibility of having very many sick people. And there's one area that I know the government has done well, but I would have to say something about is, when you have these symptoms, go to the nearest health facility for testing. My question is it true that all health facilities have the capacity to test? And not just government health facilities, private facilities. Some people will go to private doctors or private clinics. Some people will go to a small clinic in their vicinity. What has not come out, and it's a small bit but important, those who have these symptoms but have not traveled, how are they being handled? I would call on anybody who have these symptoms as it is to go, but I've not heard clearly how they are handled when they get to the center. Are they questioned thoroughly? Is there a form that really goes into their history, that although you say you have not traveled, could you have been in contact? Because I think anybody with these symptoms must now be treated differently from patients who come with other things. That is the only gap I'm concerned about, and the technical capacity of very, very severely ill people. But let me end up by saying at this point that having a coronavirus is not a death sentence. Only 2 to 3 out of 100 people affected actually die. So as much as we must take all precautions, because we don't have vaccines now, we don't have active medicines against it now, all the treatments are supportive, prevention is the most effective. And you have seen how disruptive socially the preventive measures are.
Right, thank you. Let's just get introductory remarks, then we'll circle back with more. So after the break, let's hear from Herman Manyura. On Friday, where were you? You got the news. What was your reaction?
I can't remember where I was, but it was not a surprise. In fact, it was always a question of when. But I remember tweeting like that, and people really bounced on me. You don't love this country, blah, blah, blah. But it was obvious. I think my worry is not that we have discovered found one or two cases. My worry is, are we doing enough? Government has been reluctant with the things that we should actually just make common sense.
Yes.
Including the thing that happened at the airport. including bending backwards to please foreigners. These are the kind of things we must stop. And you know, even now with the obvious cases we now have, government is still engaged in half measures. We appreciate what the government is doing.
Yes.
Even these schools, we had already said, I've even added on things like prisons. Why are we waiting why can't we begin to quarantine people in prisons and release those who are there without any serious reason? So government is still doing taking half measures. When you say flights from affected areas, and our surveillance is not good enough. If I was in northern Italy, for example, or wherever it is, why can't I go to another place, even by road, even if I drive for 10 hours? Because when they come to this country, we are not very good at checking who is coming to our country. So I think at this time, let's take measures that may look draconian, may lead to lockdown, including shutting our airports and these other ports. Let's do that for now. It may look too much, but it's better to err on the side of caution than wait and then regret. The reason why I'm saying that is that African countries like Kenya, when Europe and America and Japan and the rest will have dealt with coronavirus and they have forgotten about it, you'll be having residual impact. You're a doctor, you know what's going to happen. Because your health systems are fragile, you see, and this taking half measures, you are going to be still handling corona with the poor medical facilities and poor personnel when other countries are finished. So why can't we lock this thing? Because when that time comes, and I must say, this is the bar, if we get to 50, we are saying we are not locking our airport, fine. If we get to 50 confirmed cases, no plane from Kenya will be allowed in another country in the world. And that time we shall be having problems, and we're living with the problem. Let's start now and take such a draconian measures, if you can call them as such, completely. When we do something, do it completely. When we say flights not coming, don't talk about affected areas. Let's just close the airport for the time being. 30 days, what is America done today? America has now effectively locked out all flights from Europe because it was only remaining Ireland and the UK. And they're being affected. So the whole of Europe, imagine, no cross-Atlantic flights. What does that mean? They have done it. It is mega. Let us do it. Let us close our airports for now. Tell our friends we will resume this thing after this animal has been managed.
Right, thank you. Let's hear from Congo Mogini.
Yes, Debal, first I want to say a big hello to the guy you're speaking with from Texas.
Yes.
A very good friend of mine. I think
Oh, you know each other?
we know each other. We have even met in Texas.
Oh, okay.
Some time. So a big hi to Job.
Yes.
The news found me in Nyamira on Friday, and just like any Kenyan, it evoked some fear in me because I knew we were in for very hard and difficult times. But with a light touch, I tried to speak to the people I was with in the funeral, that we should not now shake hands. You don't know where I've come from.
Yes.
And I can tell you, nobody was listening. We were hugging and greeting each other. And even late in the evening, when I passed through Keroka, I was trying to tell people, let's not shake hands. This virus is with us here. And still people are hugging and shaking hands, So I think the bigger challenge for us is to change our social and cultural orientation. I'm sure even if it's Nikal or my colleague here, Wahome Alice, he'll tell you that it will take a long time for people in Kenya to appreciate that now that we have this virus, we should not shake hands. But I think I'm happy with the almost immediate response that we have had from the government. Within 3 days, all day schools have been closed. Our students are not going to school today. But I don't know whether there is an interface between the preparedness of our hospitals at the county level and the preparedness of the national government. I know we have an isolation facility at KNH. But what I've seen in other parts of the world is that this virus spreads really fast. And to speak like in Lamu, where I saw the governor is saying he has 9 beds isolation, or in Busia, where they have 7, I think that is a clear sign that the counties are not well prepared. And I think going forward, maybe the president should convene the summit so that the national government can have a sitting with the county governments, and then we see the counties that don't have the capacity. Because surely, like Dr. will tell us that you have an isolation of 9 beds in a county, that may not deal with the numbers. Look at the way the social gatherings we have at the county levels. Funerals, you find maybe more than 2,000 people are gathered, and we have traveled from all corners of the country. Our churches, people are still in church yesterday. It's like business as usual. And the sitting arrangements, all of us. Yeah, I think going forward, the government should really come hard on us to ensure that social gatherings are reduced to the bare minimum. I'm told in some countries, like Israel, they are not allowing more than 10 people to gather. So we really must hammer the point to our people that we are living in very extraordinary times, and we must put in place extraordinary measures. It's not easy to tell people that we should not have big gatherings for funerals, church crusades, but we must get out, some of us who are leaders must get out, go to the to the FM stations, speak to our people, tell them the risk. You know, look at Italy. I think we are talking about 1,800 deaths, because this virus keeps mutating. The virus that was in China is not the same virus that we are having in Italy. The strain that has come to Kenya, we really don't know whether it will behave the same way like that on Italy. So we really must go out the bar and educate our people and telling them that these are very extraordinary times. You know, I've never seen a situation where even courts have had to have a shutdown. We're not going to have any civil cases.
Truly,
extraordinary
times.
Extraordinary times. So we must also reach out to our people, not to behave like it's normal. It's not business as usual.
Right. Yeah. Thank you. When we circle back, we shall hear from Alice Wahome and also Job Nyagenya Omanga, who is a public health officer in Denton County, Texas, to also just try and compare notes what is happening there in America and here in the country as well. Remember, you can hit us on Twitter. AM Live NTV is a Twitter handle. AM Live NTV is our profile name on Facebook, and 20686 our SMS portal. We'll take a short break right now. When we circle back, we'll continue with more. And just to inform you as well, 23-year-old Elijah Kitonyo was arrested by the DCI for tweeting misleading and alarming fake news on coronavirus. This is a 23-year-old Elijah Kitonyo was arrested by the DCI in Mwingi for tweeting misleading and alarming fake news on coronavirus. This is serious. But of course, if you have Kenya at heart, you need also to take that civic duty of being responsible also on social media as far as giving misinformation as far as coronavirus is concerned. So take cognizance of that. The government is very serious.
Na wewe unamjuaje?
I was his fiance.
Chika storo kibao na 200% storo bonus. Piga simu zaidi, tuma SMS au nunua bundles ufikishe target yako leo. Isitoshe, pata 50% extra airtime unapo top up na kupiga *544*2* amount hash. Safaricom, for you.
When you're facing stubborn stains, you're always in a fierce fight. Clean Soft kicks out stains. Kimateki.
Living in a trap house.
Okay, Mike, unaangaliaje besti yangu? Hold up, Mike. Hawezani na hii gari kubwa.
Kama wakuju. Ebu waambie wewe ni nani, Mike?
Twendeni Mombasa.
Ulikuwa unafikiria?
Kumwambia Neb, si kumwambia nampeleka Mombasa. Yeye ndiye alikuja, mimi niliongea tu hypothetically. Oya.
Are you okay? Get away from me, Tasha. Leave me alone.
I am Carol, and I've invested in the Alma by Saiton, located in Rwanda. Investing in the Alma was the best investment decision I made. I was one of the early investors, and I have enjoyed up to 55% of the capital appreciation. If you are looking to earn above average returns, invest sharp in the Alma Phase 2 today.
Phase 1 is 100% sold. Call to reserve your unit in Phase 2 today.
You're watching This Is The Point. We continue with the conversation about pace, I should say, about coronavirus and the ramifications, of course, of it in the country so far. We've seen the NSE, that is the stock market, also has really taken a big plunge as well, recording some very eye-popping figures. We shall show you that much later in the course of the program. But I have with me Dr. Nikal with us, who is a member of parliament for the Seme. Also, we do have with us Haman Manyora, who is our resident political analyst. Also, we have a Congo Mogeni with us, who is the senator of Nyamira, and Alice Wahome, member of parliament for Kandara. Let's continue with the conversation. Alice, we promised to circle back with you. Good to see you after a while.
Yeah, good to see you also. Dibale, let me first start by saying that this morning at around 6:15 on my way to town, I was attacked at the roundabout of Westlands.
You were attacked?
I was driving myself today, and it's these fellows who come and attack your vehicle on the side, and he ran away with my... In the process, he was cracking the side mirror of my car. I'm saying this because I think the police need to find out who are these fellows and do something about it. So then, because these are some of the insecurities.
Were you in traffic?
I'm sure I was in. There was a small traffic near just after the place where they have put some blocks of stones.
The roundabout.
Around the roundabout. So the traffic is slow, so you definitely are not moving. Though it was very early, and today morning was a bit dark. So he just came to my car, and I had somebody, knocking, struggling. I tried to knock on so that I can frighten him, but he still managed. The next minute I saw that
he had
has
yanked your side mirror.
Managed to run away with the side mirror. Of course, I also don't have security up to now. I think these are some of the things that are not good. And I suppose every Kenyan, the police need to check, because I'm sure it's not the first time that they are doing that there early in the morning.
So your security has been withdrawn up until now?
It still has been withdrawn. I don't know until when. But now we are dealing with coronavirus.
Yes.
On Friday. I think it is the more immediate and urgent thing for all of us. On Friday, I was in one of my secondary schools where the NGCDF committee had built 2 classrooms. And obviously, normally we make it a ceremony for the parents, because they also want to understand and own the project. So we were with the parents together with all the students, about 420 students. So I was definitely in breach of all the necessary regulations, but you see, we hadn't been told how to behave. Now that we have been told that the schools will close, I think the announcement came to me now, that came and brought realization of where we are with this. I don't think the country is ready to handle coronavirus, in my view. Of course, we are now here also now. We have come to the studio. I was wondering why you are calling us to the studio, because these are quarantined place. I think that I heard Mutahi saying it was just a matter of when we expected this will happen. I think is how we'll manage it going forward that will make a difference in terms of saving lives. Obviously, when you look at our situation, even other small diseases are killing Kenyans. We don't have enough personnel. Our hospitals are congested. If you go to Maragua, for example, or Muranga, Maragua, you'll find that patients are sleeping too, and their bed sheets are never changed, maybe for 3-4 days. So I think we will have a problem unless we contain it to the bare minimum. The fact that it is here and it came with a person who had traveled, it means then even our borders, I don't know, obviously that is Jomo Kenyatta, because she's said to have come from America, then through Europe. How many people have come from those same destinations, and have they spread the disease? So I want to say that today morning I expect the Ministry of Health, technical officials, to now come out with, very, very clear messages and information about the exact behavior of every Kenyan. Because, okay, I was also in church yesterday, and we were just the normal seating arrangement. Of course, we had the sanitizer, and we changed how we greet each other, because we normally hug a second time and sometimes a third time. So that one now we used we now did,
It is the elbow.
So if it is the elbows, seriously, the 1 meter is not being observed.
It's not being observed.
So I think that we need the technical people now, the health personnel, to come out and clearly tell us from now on 1, 2, 3. But they must also, from our borders, tell us what measures they are taking, because I think that is where the success or failure will actually occur. Including the travel. I think if this is here now, we must maybe stop as many travel as possible, as much as we can, reduce that to the bare minimum. Maybe those people coming home, we can't shut them out. And I'm happy that the president said those who are coming home should continue coming. I think it will be effective in the next 48 hours. That means maybe from Tuesday, the Jomo Kenyatta Airport will either go down or slow down. Where we are as a country in terms of our economy, you can imagine where we shall be left in the next 1 month. I think Kenyans should be prepared to spend as little as possible and know that this will be very, very tight. Economically, I think we'll be left devastated. Maybe the government needs to start thinking bigger and broader in terms of how we shall deal with that after. Because, the businesses are going to close in some places. So obviously, no goods going out, no goods coming in. We don't have an economy.
It's a crisis.
At the moment, it's a crisis.
It's a big crisis.
It's a crisis.
And also, I'm getting texts as well that some also offices are advising the workers to actually work from home as it is right now, just taking measure to try and also help in combating coronavirus so far. So some organizations so far have advising their employees not to go to work. They can work from home until further notice as it is right now. We want to join with Job. Job is a public health officer from Denton County, Texas. Job Nyagenya Omanga, who is standing by. I think it is at night there in the United States right now, right? So good evening.
Good morning, the panel.
Right. Good morning to us. All right. Good evening to you. Confusing there. But yes, we are trying to just compare notes as it is right now. We know also the United States is on a lockdown as it is right now. Maybe you can just give us the current state of play of what is happening in Denton County, Texas. You're the public health officer there. How are people combating the coronavirus?
Thank you so much for the opportunity. I want to say that across the nation, many of us are feeling very anxious about the rapid spread, the COVID-19, otherwise called the coronavirus, and the threat it has posed to our health, our loved ones, and our livelihoods. Here in Denton County, we have had 3 cases of people who have been in contact or with somebody who had tested positive, but we don't have any positive patient who has been confirmed here in Denton County. The county has taken immediate and appropriate measures to make sure that the residents of Denton County are safe. First, they made sure that all schools are closed, and then the health facilities we have in our county have to, we introduced new policies where nobody should go to any health facility in the county, and nobody should come out except healthcare providers. On the 13th of this month, the mayor of Denton City declared a state of emergency here, following the Federal Emergency Management Agency rules and guidelines. After that, Denton County followed and they declared a state of emergency. It was followed by the state of Texas, and eventually the President of the United States, Donald Trump, declared COVID-19 a national disaster. However, I want to say that mechanisms have been put into place here to make sure that each and every person is safe. Those ones who have tested positive are quarantined and put in separate rooms where they should stay for at least 14 days. And those ones who have been in contact with anybody who tested positive have to be quarantined for 14 days too. So mechanisms have been put in place here, and each and every person has been asked here to make sure that they become part of the stakeholders to curb this pandemic disease.
Right. Maybe also just to interrupt you with our panelists as well, they have questions for you. We can begin with you, Haman Manyora, or Dr. Nyikal as well. Do you have any good questions for Job there in Texas? Dr. Nyikal?
Well, what I would want to ask him, how are they dealing with the local movements of people within the county and inside and outside the county? That is important in terms of prevention.
Okay. Job, if you got that, you can answer.
I did not get what Manyora asked.
No, this is Dr. Nyikal. He's asking you, you can actually repeat the question.
How did you deal with the movement of people within the county and moving out and into the county?
Thank you so much, Manyora. That one, you know, you cannot be able to control the movement of the people per se, but there are policies that have been put in place at specific places. Let's say the nursing homes and the hospitals and the institutions of running. Now all schools are closed. The universities where we are in Denton County is the University of North Texas and the Texas Woman University, and we also have a college called the North Central Texas College. All those colleges are now closed, and all the students have now received email telling them that they are going to transition to online classes to end this semester, which is ending in May. 3, all health care facilities, they have put mechanisms in place to make sure that before anybody gets there, and of course I say it's only healthcare workers now who are allowed to go to those facilities, they have to be screened so that we make sure that if anybody has a temperature of more than 100 degrees, he cannot be allowed to go into the facility, and no patient goes out. So that is the mechanisms that have been put in place, and you know we are monitoring this thing. It is under serious surveillance to make sure that anything that is going to threaten the safety of the people and the residents of this country is well taken care of.
All right. Okay, you were speaking with Dr. Nyikal. Now Haman Manyora is on. Haman has a question for you as well. Haman, you can actually, fire away your question.
Job, now this is Manyora you are talking about. I just want to know what is your capacity in terms of the beds that you have set aside for use for purpose of isolation and quarantine in your hospitals. But for that question to make sense, what is the rough population of your county? The population of your county and the bed capacity for quarantine or isolation.
Thank you so much. I think this is Senator Omogeni.
No, this is
No, this
Haman
Manyora
Manyora.
is talking to you. The other one was
Oh, this is
Mikar.
Manyora. Okay, this is Manyora.
Yes,
Well,
yes.
I'm not working at the hospital, Professor Manyora, at this point. What I'm saying here, we have health facilities in the county, and we have two major hospitals in the county, which I know they have set aside enough rooms to take care of the patients. But I know if we have overwhelming cases, we cannot be able to manage all of them. That's why we have the city and the county and the state and even the federal government working together. But at this point in time, every nursing home in Denton County, every hospital in Denton County has a room where any patient who is suspected to be having the coronavirus, otherwise the COVID-19, is going to be isolated. If anybody is at home and is suspected that he is having the COVID-19, maybe is having the signs and the symptoms of COVID-19, he has to call the emergency, that's 911, and he or she has to tell them that he is having the signs and the symptoms of the COVID-19, so that when these people are coming to get him, they should be prepared to come and have contact precautions when they are going to get this person. You have to call the doctor and tell him your signs and symptoms before they come.
Thank you.
3, at home, each and every person has been advised, if you have the signs and symptoms, move from your family, go to an isolated place, and call 911 immediately.
All right, so up next we have Okongo Omogeni, who's standing by just to ask you a question as well. Okongo, you can ask him a question.
Yes, Job, I just want to know from your end, the healthcare providers, the nurses, the doctors who are doing the screening of, people are suspected to be having this virus. Are there any mechanisms in place to ensure that they are also protected? Are they using any protective gear, or they're just doing the testing the way you'll do it for a normal patient? Is there any measures to protect the medical care service providers?
Thank you, Senator Okongo. First of all, I have to thank all those who are making sacrifices to protect us, whether they're self-quarantining or canceling events, and those ones who have put their lives on line to make sure that we're safe. The county has made sure that these people have sufficient training, and the training is ongoing. And there is enough supplies and equipment to make sure that these people, wherever they are going, first of all, they are safe. So the safety of the healthcare providers is number one. You cannot be able to take care of somebody if you are not safe yourself.
All right, thank you. We have Alice, lastly, who will also ask you a question. Alice?
Yes, Job. I'm Alice Wahome, MP Kandara constituency. I'm concerned about self-quarantine, Job. How are we enforcing that in your county there? Because I'm looking at the Kenyan situation where I have a family and I need to self-quarantine and I don't have any other place to go. You have said that you have been advised to, the public in your place have been advised to call. Then once you call, are you then taken to the government managed isolation place, or how is it happening?
I'm not sure if I got Mheshimiwa Waume very well.
All right, she can actually just repeat
the
question.
The concern is about self-quarantine.
Just be pointed with the question, yes. Alice, yes.
Yes, the concern is about self-quarantine. How are you able to implement that, and how do you think we can handle it here in Kenya? In your county there, when you self-quarantine in a family, what are you supposed to do? Are you supposed to stay in a separate room or outside? You said that you call, but as you call, where are you in the meantime? And how soon are they able to maybe either take you to isolation?
Thank you, Mheshimiwa Waume. Now I think I got your question well. You know, when we're doing self-quarantining, for instance, if we're telling you to self-quarantine, it means, first of all, maybe you have not been infected, or you don't have signs and symptoms. So we're telling you, don't get out, don't go to work, stay at home. That is self-quarantining. If you have signs and symptoms and you are at home, then you need to call. If you are calling, then it means the people in your family are also going to be tested. we are not testing anybody. We have not done random testing at this point. We are only testing people who have the signs and the symptoms of the COVID-19. And remember this, Alex, this disease can only be won when we have collective responsibility. Each and every person has to be responsible. When you are at home, nobody will be able to know if you are having signs and symptoms of the COVID if you don't say. That's why the media is there to educate and tell people that if you're having a fever of 100, if you are throwing up, if you're having difficulty breathing, then you need to call so that people can come and you get tested. I know in Kenya it is a little bit tricky. It's a little bit hard to self-quarantine people, even when we look at the way we have movement in the country. For instance, the president yesterday gave an order that all schools should be closed. These students are going home today. They are going to use public means. How safe are they from school home? When they go home, what mechanisms have we put in place as a country to make sure that these students will stay at home till the COVID-19, otherwise known as the coronavirus, is completely solved? So in Kenya, I know we don't even have enough supplies and equipment to test people. I heard from my county in Kisii, the director of health, my friend saying that if they suspect anybody who is having that virus, they are going to get him and send the sample to Nairobi to get tested. So we don't have enough supplies and equipment to test. I urge the government, if possible, and also you guys who are in power, make sure that all the 47 counties in Kenya have enough supplies and equipment so that people can be able to be tested right there at the county, and we have enough resources to have those people quarantined. The PAL, it's important for me to say this. In Denton County, $50 million was set aside for anybody who is going to be infected or affected by this. Number one, no utility is going to be cut for them. Electricity is not going to be shut down for anybody in the county because they are not going to be able to pay, because people are not going to go to work. Two, nobody is going to be kicked out of the house because he's not able to pay for the mortgage or the rent because of this pandemic. So money has been set aside to make sure that the people are safe. Leaders in power, that is the role we have to do.
Right. Thank you. Thank you, Job. Maybe lastly, you've declared there in the county that it's now a national disaster. And I wonder what dynamics that this really change as far as the government's approach is concerned when there's a pronouncement of it being a disaster.
Well, first of all, on the band, you need to know that whether it's a national disaster or a local disaster, the first line of defense is the city. So the city is the one which is dealing with the problem in that city. So in Denton County, we are now helping the city, and we are also getting reinforcement, the resources from the state and the federal government. When the thing is out of control, when the city is overwhelmed, that's when it asks for support from the county, and if the county is overwhelmed, it asks for support from the state, and when the state is overwhelmed, then they go to the federal. That's why we have Federal Emergency Management Agency, which is a federal now run by the national government, which is helping to curb this problem, working together with the city, the county, and the state. We don't have that one in Kenya. And I wish Mheshimiwa Alice Wahome should take that one to the National Assembly so that we can have a National Emergency Management Agency that can be able to help the county and even the constituencies down to our county assemblies in managing problems of this nature.
Right, thank you very much. Unless you have any question for him, we can, yeah. I think you've done exhaustively well, and I thank you so much for your contribution, Job, even as you're making sure the people of the county of Denton, that is in Texas, also are keeping safe. We wish you well in America, which is under lockdown as well. We are learning more, and of course we shall be comparing with you moving forward as well. Thank you very much for your contribution on AM Live this morning. Right, just back to a panelist. I think also it's raised so many issues that we can actually try and latch on and discuss as well. The first issue that maybe I can bring on the table, and we've discussed this for the longest time ever. We saw in America with the national disaster, this was prompted also by the National Disaster, I think, Act that they do have. And I've always raised this with the senators. I know right now we have a bill which is on the floor of the House. This is the disaster bill. Yes. Do you think now will have been the providential time to really actually effect this particular bill? And we've been talking about the bill for the longest time, over 11 years right now, when it was a National Disaster Management Bill, I think in the Assembly, the National Assembly. Where is it at? How effectively can it be working for us right now that we are glaring at a disaster in the country?
Good. I think first is to really thank Job, because he's really given us very useful information, especially the interventions that can be put in place by the government. You know, like I remember on Saturday I was passing through Keroka, and traders there were saying that they have been served with notices, 7 days notices to vacate from premises because we are going to have Madaraka Day celebrations. So I think it's a wake-up call to us, both national and county governments, that we need to have a soft belly on our people as we handle this pandemic. And I'm very impressed that the government has stepped in to set aside money to pay rent for people, to pay
50 billion US dollars.
50 billion. Translating to Kenya shillings, how much is that? You know, that's huge. And I know even in this country, there are people who are going to be seriously affected.
5 trillion. 5 trillion.
That's how much?
5 trillion.
5 trillion. And I think that's a challenge to us as members of parliament. Other than that bill, disaster management bill, there are some extraordinary measures that can be put in place by the national government and by the county governments to cushion people who may be affected by this virus. You know, when you tell people that today opening offices may be optional, it means that there are businesses that are not going to get income. It means there is a risk of some companies not being able to pay their employees at the end of the month. There is a risk of people who are servicing mortgages, just like you have been told, who may be at risk of being distressed by our banks. So I think it calls for a wider consultation of various players in the economy and in the business sector and in the public sector. But Dibala, I cannot tell you for, with certainty where the disaster management bill is at the Senate. But I think when we resume tomorrow is something that needs to be fast-tracked so that we have a legal framework in place that can respond to some of these things. But I think for now, we may not have time to pass laws. What we need is action from the government that sets aside money and comes up with a plan of people who may be vulnerable, that may need immediate assistance from the government. Last week, there was fear that insurance companies were going to refuse to pay bills for people who may be affected by coronavirus. I think we saw an intervention, discussions were held, and finally we got information trickling in that insurance companies will pay bills for people who may be suffering from this virus. So that's a good intervention. But going forward, there is a lot that needs to be done by the national government and county governments. Our preparedness. I've read that in Spain, a footballer called Cristiano Ronaldo has set aside his hotel and converted it into a hospital.
Yes.
So I think we must also talk to people at the county level, people with the mansions who live in Nairobi who are not using them. Let them give those houses as temporary hospitals.
This is in the standard.
If you have a 6-bedroom,
Diana, please.
If you have a 6-bedroom mansion, Dibal, in Nyamira or in Seme, you can surrender that to the county government. Then they put in place, mechanisms of that being a hospital, put in place some nurses. We have so many people who have completed training but who have not been recruited. By now, we should be hearing, a call for these people to register, be on call, so that we enhance the capacity of counties to deal with this epidemic.
Right, Dr. Nyikao.
One point that I've picked, which I think we can follow up here, is the relationship between the county government and the state and the federal. It comes out that they have a clear way of functioning, so that you do this if you are overwhelmed, you do this if you are overwhelmed, you do that. I don't think we have that, knowing the relationship between our county governments and national government. I think that's something we need to look and put in place, not only for disaster, but for actually all actions, so that things run smoothly. On the issue of the bail, if you think about it, if you are declaring national disasters and you don't an act of parliament that tells you what to do immediately, then you see there's a gap. Because if you have that act, and I really must say we must get it in place immediately, then once a national disaster is declared, it will prescribe immediately what to do, 1, 2, 3. Even acquiring property, like Mheshimiwa Ogeni was saying, if there are some big property, private property that is lying fallow, that is needed for for national use, for national emergency, those are the kind of things that that act would take in place. So I've appreciated the relationship and the structured, ordered way in which the county services and the national services and the state services and the federal services act. That has been a point that I've noted.
Are you seeing any possible scenario where the government can also offer some economic stimulus package for this, specifically for this coronavirus as it is right now? Or we are not in a position as to whether we can actually steamroll that? Is it Haman? Is Haman then Alice?
Sorry, yeah,
Haman then you. Yes, yes.
I think it's obvious that we are praying God that this thing doesn't go beyond where it is. But it looks like we will have to prepare ourselves. And one of the things that is obvious is that even the UN has already said our economy is going to go down by about 50%. And people are going to suffer. What then there is government coming up with measures to mitigate some of these things. They may not do everything, but government should be prepared. You see, in that county, they are saying you don't need to bother about electricity and a few other things and mortgages. So the government will have to be prepared. This is the one time in our life as a people when we must put country first. If there's any shilling in the budget that's going for useless things, we must put a stop to that and set aside every penny we can have to help the country mitigate and navigate around this thing. It's going to be very critically important because some people really go down. You see, listen to this man and you can see the order, the structure. It's very admirable, and we can do that. It's not very difficult. Of course, when he talks of 100 degrees, you know, they are still in Fahrenheit, so people must be wondering, how 100 degrees is too high. That's American, 100 degrees Fahrenheit. Now, I noticed that. Something else he said, which we have also said here, self-quarantine. If you are in your house, Alice, and you suspect something before everything has been done, lock yourself in the bedroom. Let your food be brought next to the door, and the people go out, then you open, then take the food. The question we must then ask ourselves, 80% or so of people in Nairobi don't live in those called bedroomed houses. It is just 10 by 10, and there are 6, 7 of them inside. Now, there is something this country must begin to engage. You cannot be proud that you are doing well as a country when 80% and more of your people live in Kibra and Kimadari. I've always said this kind of thing. Now this is the time for us to know. God save us from this thing, but when we emerge out of this thing, let us embark on a program where there will be no Kibera or Madare or anything like that in this country. Mukuru something, Mukuru Kwayaba, Mukuru Kwayube. We can't have that in the 21st century. Final debate. The intelligence people. Today we don't talk about that intelligence. It's called Special Branch of Nyati House and Nyaya House. Today it is strategic intelligence, strategic security. Do you know the bar for every one person who has a reason for being in Nairobi? There are many others who have absolutely no reason of being in Nairobi. And our strategic thinking must go to that level, where we begin to decongest Nairobi. Government must come up with the policies that will lead to urban-rural migration. And you can only do that if devolution works. If we invest in the counties, both the national and the county governments must invest there. This brings to mind my proposal to BBI. We need a third tier of government. We need regional governments. These are regional governments will be powerful and big enough and economically viable enough to make the countryside a viable place to live and work. You get what I'm saying? If you have a hub like Kakamega, you have industries. So we need to decongest Nairobi. There are so many people in Nairobi who have no reason for being in Nairobi. And now when we are met with a catastrophe like this, then is a time to begin to imagine what would happen if there were 10 cases in Kawangware.
Thank you. Right.
You get it?
Yes.
And our matatus. Let me tell you, if a matatu is carrying 30 people to town, I can tell you for sure, I've not done any research, maybe only 5 have reason to come to town. The rest are just coming to hang around town here, to look for Alice Wahome Mweshimiwa, to look for... I'm telling you, we must address those things strategically in future, where we decongest our cities and by making the countryside attractive and economically viable.
Right, thank you. Alice Wahome.
You see, Dibar, when I talked earlier on, I said that the technical people, the health personnel, must now come out with constant and continuous messages of how Kenyans, we should order ourselves and go about our business, and what bare minimum business can we continue to transact. And of course, information flow must also be arranged in such a manner that we will also be able to monitor what is happening.
Yes.
And I think, you know, in other countries, it's like people are being shown how the treatment areas are, because also we need to instill confidence in the population. Otherwise, you know, we also don't want to be bearers of messages or information that will make everybody panic like the end of the world is here with us. Then on the question of what can the National Assembly also do, because you see, Job challenged me regarding coming up with an authority which will then obviously create a fund. I think this bill, from in a quick search here, the bill came to Parliament on 29th of March 2019. That's obviously now 1 year down the line.
Yes.
And I am aware that it was discussed in the National Assembly. It is pending. From some of the other notes I've seen, it's pending in the Senate. I think Parliament as an institution must now maybe agree with the government how to finalize this, because all measures we are now taking are emergency and urgent measures. This is a bill we can complete and agree on where it is, come up with a very quick way of handling it, because also Parliament is also going to close. I think we might have to close before, because it's also an area where we have more than we are crowded, very crowded and congested. But before we do that, I think we need to clear with this. However, even if this is not done, the country can also, directed by the executive, the president, come up with fundraising. I mean, we need to pool resources. People are giving their own hotels. As a country, we can and we have done that before. I think this is a moment where the whole country can be able to pool resources together, create one huge fund under austerity measures, so that then we put money there, where then, you know, we can cover some of this, because definitely we are talking about insurance. How many Kenyans are insured in this country? Kenyans are not insured. The hospital insurance fund, maybe the percentage is on the bare minimum. So how shall the hospitals deal with this? The counties can also do their own resource mobilization, of course, working together with the national government, because Job told us that it's the counties are fast managing, and they want to do it until when maybe they need support of the national government. So, and because the way I've heard before is that the counties are now looking at this as a time to get now support and money from the national government. I think the counties must now rethink their strategy, because they are also managing health services at county level. I don't think that they will sit there. Of course, the national government has a responsibility to support the counties. But I think within that, the counties must demonstrate ability to resource mobilize, create facilities on emergency measures, and also call for support from people who may have those kind of facilities to convert them, so that we know if I go to Muranga, there is this facility is available. Yeah.
But let me just say something. Mheshimiwa Aume has been saying, technical people coming out to give information. I think she is right. What we have seen is high-level commitment, which we really need the president, the minister. But once that policy direction has been given on what, it's actually important that the technical people in the ministry, starting with the Director General, should really have more technical information on a daily basis, going into even the FM stations and so on, so that there is a lot of info. People do tend to trust information that is coming from technical people. Another thing that has come out that I think we look at is there has been a problem in our devolution process where enforcement of national policies or national standards has not been very smooth. And I think this is a situation, as we saw from our friend from the US, where the national standards are actually adhered to without question once they have actually been agreed upon. Like you heard him saying all the time, the county working in line with the national guidelines. So that is an area that, again, we must enforce now, so that counties are not left, each one trying to do things on their own.
Mm-hmm. Right. Is a good one. Also, talking of the counties, I have a bit of a worry what is happening, because first of all, we're not being updated on what is happening on Ole Kasasi Center. This is where the county government of Kajiado set aside as a national election center, especially for the department at Rima House, where we had the first case of coronavirus, and people there, I think they'd gone also to disinfect the apartments. So we're not being updated on what is happening. Is there any new also cases as far as Ole Kasasi Center is concerned? But more worrying as well is we know the president cancelled a trip to go to the Rome, right? He was meant to meet also the Pope, but in light of what is happening also in Italy, that trip was cancelled. But prior to that, there was an advance team that went to Rome, and it was already in Rome, Italy, after Italy also decreed a total lockdown. This particular team, we've not been given information of this particular advance team, where they, within the current state of play of the situation, so that we do also know what is happening with this particular advance team. Because Italy, as it is right now, is a very highly, also, I should say, a high it should be the epicenter, the key epicenter, especially in Europe as far as the coronavirus is concerned. Your reactions?
You mentioned a young man, and it was on Twitter all over. I also tweeted about it. A young man was arrested by DCI, and DCI are very proud of it because they have put it on Twitter and social media and everywhere, who was spreading fake news. How? Fake news will always be there. It is because there are idiots like those ones in society. And even when you arrest him and the courts are not functioning and you release him. Look here, I told the DCI there are going to be many such idiots. Now, why do you think rumors are there? Rumors and fake news thrive in a situation where there is no news, there is no information. Government should not operate in secrecy. God forbid, if I got this thing, just say, after you have cleared with my family, of course, just let the world know there's this Manyona man, he teaches at the University of Nairobi. Once in a while, he's on AM live show. He's now, make it as clear as that. Like in an accident situation, we conduct the family. Once the families are aware, we go open with, and that is how government must operate. Now you are saying there are people in Rome. This should be obvious. You should know how many Kenyans are there, what is the situation, what arrangements have been made, have they come back? If they have come back, how will they come back? You see the problem with this country, we are not blaming anybody because government is doing a lot. But we have the tendency to believe we don't want the world to know certain things about us. And Nikal here is a doctor. He will tell you that is part of the reason why AIDS, HIV/AIDS hit us more than it should have hit us. We denied, we were tourism, we shall affect tourism, that kind of stupidity. So this is a global pandemic. There is nothing to be embarrassed or to be ashamed of or anything. Let us just be open to the extent that is possible and ethical. You get it? Which means you talk to the people's family And now once that has been done, let people know, okay, this is where we are, this is what we have done, this is how much money we have set aside, this is how we are using the money. Because people are saying now, even there is money inside, people are going to use. You see, if you look at America, it is headed by Mike Pence, who is the vice president, the team. And they are the very regular updates, periodic updates. You get it. You wake up at night and you find they are there. With a team of experts, when they speak, you are convinced these guys are on top of the game. This one gives, there's a short guy there, then there's that very eloquent lady, I don't know what her name is. Look here, you see, this is a country that's on top of things. Much as some others, they are blaming themselves, China is blaming them, but that's what we need in this country. We must expand the thinking capacity of government beyond Mutahi Kagwe and his team. And I'm telling you, and I've said this on this desk, it is time to involve the defense forces. Those guys are serious in the things they do. Let them, whether the boys, have a role to play in this thing. Because that's so thorough. You saw the Managi Moi's funeral. Let us involve them. Let the thinking go a little higher than it is now. And let us avoid working in secrecy. Let us provide information, like Alice is saying, even what you need to know as a person. I saw Alice, this lady from Yamuranga, your county women report scholar, Sabina Chege, health chair committee. She was trying to call one of those numbers. The mobile you are calling.
Thank you, Haman.
You see what the person was not even available.
Thank you.
The line you have given in Deba, please listen. In such a life and death issue, you have given a number, and it's not going through. Those are the kind of jokes we must stop. Now you can take over the floor. I yield.
Yeah, I was asking about the advanced team, because we've not even gotten information. It's very key.
About these advanced teams that went to Italy. One, I think, let the government be open about it. Tell us who are these people who are in Italy. And then we agree how do we deal with them. If we are allowed to bring them back to the country, I think they should be quarantined somewhere. Because they're coming from a place in Europe which is an epicenter of this disease.
Yes.
It doesn't help us not to be open and make full disclosure. Because we also need to know if...
They will fear the number of people who are gone there and the cost.
Like now, I expect if Manyara was in Rome last week, you should tell me so that I know I should...
Or if you meet one of them, these guys are supposed to have come yesterday. What is he doing in the hotel?
What government institutions need to do is that I think chief executives or guys who are heading departments should make a full account of their members. Even us at the National Assembly, in Parliament, we are 349. I expect the Speaker to issue a statement, tell us that out of the 349, we have 20 members who are out of the country, some are in Italy, wherever, so that when they come back, they are told that please go into isolation. You call it self-isolation.
And they know that we know.
But you can imagine, as we speak today, Debar, I don't know who of my colleagues is out of the country, where they are, and then there should be an account now. We need to have people who are very accountable to us. So Ministry of Foreign Affairs, they owe us some explanation, a statement, and way forward. Either they are telling these guys, stay there for some time, or when you come, we'll receive you and take you to a government facility somewhere in isolation. But keeping quiet.
Yeah, keep it quiet.
Very badly on us.
Yeah, very important, because as I mentioned also, there's a legislator that I know that was down in South Africa, and I called him up, and I was asking, could we maybe, let me not preempt what I wanted to. Just a moment. But the thing that just a moment. What you're raising is very key, because the essence is he was down in South Africa, and we know South Africa right now is second to Egypt in terms of the numbers of people who have died so far of coronavirus. And I asked him, are you sure you're okay? He said, no, I'm okay, because you have this 14-day window where you remain very asymptomatic, isn't it? And it is through the asymptomatic sort of circulation where we actually spread this particular virus. You don't really show up. And he's a member of parliament. And you have a sitting as well. You have a sitting.
You can imagine.
Potentially, that could be a person who can actually spread the virus even within the
Speaker
chambers.
must tell us, this is the point I'm making. Let's have a full account of the 349 of us. Let's know who was out of the country, who has just come in, and then we see who is breaching these rules of self-isolation. We really need to be told. That's why I'm saying that people who are heading key institutions needs to be accountable to the people they are serving.
But the question is self-isolation really working? Because yes, I was telling this particular person, you need to self-isolate yourself. Don't even join this particular group.
That we will have to accept self-quarantine or self-isolation, because really at some point you may not have the facility to hold everybody you suspect of having a cough or something like that. So that's okay. The idea is like Morgan is saying, full disclosure, an account of Kenyans where they are, when they come in, so that when we know Morgan is under isolation, God forbid, of course, but you can be under isolation without being sick. Eh? But if I met him in a hotel, I said, but I just tell him, you were supposed to be under isolation. The reason why this will be kept secret, people are fearing, why are people outside on government stipend, on government money? What are they doing there? What are the numbers?
Just leave alone that.
Let us go beyond that for now. We shall forgive them.
Just a moment. But
for the TV.
Are we riding also on the assumption that every Kenyan has a mansion? That you have a bunker in your house that will be self-isolate?
I raised that already.
But let me some of the Kenyans that we have here, and we are talking about, they're living in slums, is actually one room where you have maybe even 6 people together with the children, right? When we're talking about self-isolation, on what assumption are we riding this?
Let me respond to this particular question. There are 2 issues here. One is technical, another one is management. We must have full information. If they are there, when did they go, how many are they?
Correct.
2, the president has just said, and that I think has come out from wherever they have looked at all the data, they have looked at what is done everywhere, that Kenyans who are abroad can come back. Then there must be a clear way of dealing with those who have been in these areas who have to come back. And once we have put those in as guidelines, they must be followed strictly. These particular people, if they come back, surely they must go into isolation. This self-quarantine would be for somebody who is just suspecting. But these are people who have been there, they have gone into that area, they have come back. If there are not that many that will overwhelm our system, really, these are people to put in some quarantine. And people should know. You see, he said, I'm a doctor. The rule in medicine, say the truth as it is and act according to the laid down procedure. If you do that, all issues will be taken care of. You see, and everything must now be put aside, whether they went there illegally, whether they used too much money, whether that is immaterial now. What is important, how are they affecting their own health, but more importantly, the health of Kenyans, should there be a problem when they come back.
All right. Okay, so Congress also had a bill as well that really prompted the economic stimulus package. What is also Parliament planning? Are we going to have any bill right now to try and cushion Kenyans as far as this coronavirus is concerned? Because we are going to be affected. Look at the Business Daily today. If they may just pick up the front page of the Business Daily, and this is a bellwether of where the country is as it is right now. When we look, let me try and just put up the Business Daily for you, if you may. This is the Business Daily, and it is just looking at the stock market as it is right now. The Business Daily, virus hit NSE stock shed. This is an eye-popping figure, 573 billion shillings. It's a plunge. Safaricom, KCB, Equity, and the ABL accounted for 72% of the paper wealth erosion. And you have top losers here in 2-month period. Leading is Safaricom, Equity, and also others, 130.5 billion shillings. So Safaricom shared the highest amount, pushing its market cap to below 1 trillion shillings. So this is bound to have ramifications as far as the economy is concerned as it is. And we know, of course, Nairobi, NSE is a bellwether of how the economy is performing. We're looking at the international indices as well. We know the global markets are grappling or they're rattling from the effects of coronavirus as it is. So it is very key also to know from that particular front, what are the parliamentarians also preparing? Because this is bound to affect Kenyans. We need reassurance that our mortgages that we are servicing, we're not going to also pay much as far as the mortgages are concerned. Auctioneers, maybe they're now waiting with their tentacles now to clamp down on people who will not really service their mortgages as it is right now. What assurance can we get from the parliamentarians that actually you're going to put this on the floor of the House and come with a speedy remedial measure to try and cushion Kenyans?
I wouldn't be able to sit here and say that we should will be coming with this particular measure. I think from the statement of the president yesterday,
yes,
I think we are expecting that there will be a raft of other policy decisions that will flow from that, because that was the first public announcement from the head of state. Obviously, other ministries now need to come up, including Parliament, and so that whatever is needed to be done then is brought on the table of the House, so that then we can be able to pick it. You see, it cannot be the institution in isolation. What we should be able to guarantee Kenyans is that whenever Parliament is called upon to act quickly, then we will be able to do. Obviously, even in terms of budgetary realignment, that can be done, so that we then set aside money. It has to come, obviously, then from the National Treasury. And obviously, I expect that the central bank will also deal with the question of, like, you know, the issues of mortgages, banks, how they will deal. All these sectors are supposed to meet quickly in reaction to what the president actually issued yesterday. We would expect all these areas to have quick meetings. You know, if it is Commissioner General of this, you know, Kenya Revenue, every other key sector in the country is supposed then to now come up and think quickly. Obviously, then there has to be a focal point where all these things then are brought together, so that we work in tandem without throwing everybody and everything off balance. It is obvious that we may require like a 3 month, even if it's a 3 months, you know, they normally will call it a measure that is urgent. Maybe 90 days of some relief. Will the banks be asking people who are not doing business to pay as expected end of the month? Or at what level? You know, those who are able to pay, then they can pay. But I think there should be a period. What about houses? What about tenants? You know, I think that we expect the government will take lead, in my view, in guiding the country into taking measures that will leave people not as devastated as they would be. Because in any case, if you want to sell my house,
thank you.
Who are you going to sell to?
Right, thank you. Okongo Mogeni.
Who are you going to sell to? Yeah.
I expect the bank should take a lead from what the judiciary did yesterday.
Yeah.
You know, there is a committee we call Committee on Administration of Justice that brings all the players in the justice sector together. And there was a pronouncement that was very key that was made yesterday. The judiciary has put a stop to any court executions. You cannot attach any Kenyan's property now in recovery of a debt till further notice. So, you know, that
will not be prosecuted anyway, yeah.
Yeah, that cushions Kenyans who are in debt and who may not be able to raise money to pay because businesses are not doing well. I expect Kenya Bankers Association should call for a meeting and at least give an assurance to Kenyans that, look, we are suspending interest accruing on your mortgages for the next 90 days. So that if you are not able to pay us, what we'll be demanding after the 90 days will just be the principal, but not interest. And two, they should also tell Kenyans that they are putting on hold any auctions of Kenyans who may not be able to pay their monthly mortgages. Because as I said, these are extraordinary times, and we expect extraordinary measures from everybody who is in our economy, who is the public sector, and the likes. So I hope that all these people can take a coup from what happened yesterday, call for meetings, and then make pronouncements to Kenyans that reflect that they have some heart that feels what Kenyans are going through.
Right, and we eagerly wait to see also, I think on Friday, the CS Health have indicated that also the business community will be meeting today. So we are waiting to see also how that will pan out. So they will make a pronouncement. I think there will be a press briefing today from the business fraternity in light of the coronavirus as well.
But let me just make a small point about a pandemic response team planning.
We need to be planning to actually be winding up. I hope it's not very lengthy.
No, it's not lengthy. Okay. I would expect that there is the national pandemic response team or disaster team that is sitting, and that will have everybody, the army, the banking system, or the minister appropriate. And when they sit, they look at every aspect of this thing, and then they will draw conclusions that actually will come part of the statements that will actually let down. But I know the budget process will change. We have just passed through the budget policy statement. I don't see it going on. It will have to change to accommodate the current situation.
Right, thank you. Yes, it will be reassuring to Kenyans as well to see a disinfecting team, a squad. We don't have to wait for people who have been in, gone to those houses that are infected to try and start spraying. We want to see them in town. We want to see them in our villages. We want to see them in the supermarkets, high impacted areas where they need to start spraying so that we can know at least the city is getting sterilized. All the country is getting sterilized as it is right now. Remember also the United Nations complex in Gigiri, Nairobi has scaled down in-house staff. Many also are taking cue of this. They're calling on the staff not to go to work today. These are some of the remedial measures that people are taking. Also remember, Aga Khan University Hospital gave a hotline number. This is +254 070-993-1700. I think it's important, it bears repeating, 070-993-1700, specifically for coronavirus. The hotline will help provide relevant information on the virus. The step was taken to give also clarity, preempt misinformation, and reduce anxiety. And the hospital's infectious disease experts will provide information on the basics of protecting oneself from coronavirus as it is right now. So the number is 070-993-1700. Right, we are supposed to be winding up right now, but I'll be remiss if I don't run you by also some of this very key but basic, but very key in terms of also protecting yourself. How to protect yourself. Frequently wash your hands with soap and water, or clean your hands with alcohol-based hand rub. Once your hands are cleaned, you should dry them thoroughly. You should dry them, I should say, thoroughly by using a paper towel or a warm air dryer. Maintain at least 1 meter distance between yourself and anyone who is coughing or sneezing. Avoid touching eyes, nose, and mouth. Hands touch many surfaces and can pick up viruses. Once contaminated, hands can transfer the virus to your eyes, nose, or mouth. Also, make sure you and the people around you follow good respiratory hygiene. This means covering your mouth and nose with your bent elbow or tissue. When you cough or sneeze, then dispose of the used tissue immediately. If you have fever, cough, and difficulty in breathing, seek medical care early enough. Also, when to wear a mask. If you're healthy, you only need to wear a mask if you are taking care of a person with suspected COVID-19 infection. Wear a mask if you're coughing or sneezing. Masks are effective only when used in combination with frequent hand cleaning with alcohol-based hand rub or soap and water. If you wear a mask, then you must know how to use it and dispose of it properly. Earlier on, I think this was from the World Health Organization. They had said, do not cancel your travel plans, but take into account various restrictions airlines and countries have put in place. That is very key. Also, practice hand hygiene while in a plane cabin or hotel, and observe coughing etiquette. Stay clear of heavily impacted areas by staying aware of the latest information on COVID-19 outbreak and crowded areas, especially people who are suspected to be infected. If you have traveled from a heavily impacted area, monitor yourself for 14 days. If you have a fever, cough, and difficulty breathing, seek medical attention and call in advice. Follow the direction of your local health authority, that is from the World Health Organization. We leave you the quote of the day, which says that any disaster you can survive is an improvement in your character, your stature, and your life. That is from Joseph Campbell, quote of the day. And just be aware as well, also the NSE will resume today. Trading after freezing on Friday. Trading at the Nairobi bourse is expected to resume after Friday holding, after it opened on a free fall. And you just saw the figures there on the front page of the Business Daily as well. Thank you very much for your valued company. I want to thank my panelists. I won't give you your closing remarks. Let me just not go there because of wasting of time. But thank you so very much. I think we are stuffed for time. No, it will be unfair. Thank you. We'll see you next Monday. Thank you. Take care. Make sure you wash your hands, right? Also, the kerchiefs are very important. Huh? I hope all of us, we have handkerchiefs as well, right? So make sure also you grab one. Buy for yourself. See you. Have a good day.
Mzungu alikuja hapo kitambo akapata watu wanachimba gold. Is this a gold mine? Then Muluya akasikia akasema, hii ni kolomani.
Ayabiri is a solution that gives you the power to book a ticket to your destination at the right time and the right price. Download the app or log on to www.ayabiri.com or call us on 0709 215 215 to book your ticket now.
I've been a sinner, hata maji niliombwa nikasema sina. Always wanted to be a singer, but along the way I think focus ilibaki sina.
Nataka niwe nawe, tuwe tu milele. Mimi nawe ni mimi nawe ni mimi nawe. Kazi ya Mungu kweli haina makosa. Ingekuwa binadamu wanatoa ningekosa. Sio juju ni maombi.
Nikupike na kapete, 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 kapete. Foto, kisha chora namba kwenye telefone. Telefone, leo tujua.
The Heat in association with Coca-Cola.
The three sides of Anna.
It is important that I must know what Marcelo discovered before he lost his memory.
Your granddaughter Ana Lucia is alive, Ernestina. That's what I discovered. I have the feeling that my accident was provoked so as to prevent me from giving you this important news. Don't you think so, darling?
Me? Oh, well, I don't know.
Be very careful what you choose to tell Ramiro.
Take it easy, counselor.
No matter how much I look at you, I don't know anything. Who are you in this moment? Ana Lucia.
The three sides of Anna.
Sour Shower has never been better with the new look Sour. Now with a new formulation too that will leave you feeling fresh for longer, while the soap lasts even longer.
It's 8:52 in the morning. Living with S is the perfect destination for information, entertainment, and laughter, bringing a refreshing perspective to Kenyan television every weekday morning. Let's get revving. Welcome to Sun City Resort, South Africa. We create an environment that leads to moments of unpredictable fun that reflect on everyday people, celebrities, and experts in various fields that touch on your day-to-day lifestyle. So why not join me, Sharon Mundia, every weekday morning from 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. as I seek to liven up your morning.
Mayweather, I said I'm not in the mood.
Umetumwa na nani?
Ni mami aliniambia wewe ni baba yangu.
Ena mwambie wewe mami wako, mimi si baba yako.
Si ukuje mnikipi company.
Ai, hapana, wewe mimi niko sawa hapa niko.
Niona Mayweather akiongea na mwanamke asubuhi kabla atoke.
Mayweather would never dare cheat on me.
With Lipa na M-Pesa, you get more. Every 100 shillings spent on Lipa na M-Pesa earns you an entry into the draw. Do more with Lipa na M-Pesa.
This is NTV.
Welcome to today's auction sale. We have 3 properties on offer. That is Kajiado Kitangela, stroke 73042. Anyone interested in that particular property? No. Gong Gong, 37632, Laser area, Ongata. Do we have anyone interested in that particular property?
Auctioning of properties has been Joseph Gikonyo's bread and butter for the last 25 years.
45.5.
Today he has 3 properties within the outskirts of Nairobi going under the hammer.
If we have interested bidders for that particular property, let me have your bids, please.
Many of us use the phrase, it goes to the highest bidder metaphorically just about every day. Well, here it is used in the literal sense. We witnessed 2 bidders go neck to neck for a property located in Kiambu's Kahawa Wendani area.
We have an opening bid of 30 million shillings with bidder number 141. Do I get a higher offer? 31 million shillings with bidder number, can I see your bidding number? Bidder number 142. Does it get any higher? 33 million shillings, bidder number 141. Do we get a response from bidder number 142? Yes. How much? 34 million shillings, bidder number 142. 35 million shillings, bidder number 141. 35.5 million shillings, bidder number 142.
Auctioneers are a dreaded lot. Oftentimes they remind us there are dire consequences for defaulting on credit facilities, whether from the formal market or the informal market. Unfortunately, the state of the housing market in Kenya over the last 2-3 years has translated into an extremely busy season for auctioneers.
Below target occupancy rates, landlords compelled to slash rent in a bid to retain tenants, and auctions left, right and centre. This is the sad state of affairs currently witnessed in segments of the housing market in Kenya's main urban centres. The Kenya Bankers Association has been tracking the average price of housing units in the country from as far back as 2013. The association's Housing Price Index helps put into perspective the situation on the ground. Starting the first quarter of 2018, the index has been on a general decline, falling from a peak of 121.29 to a low of 118.76 at the close of 2019. Jared Osoro serves as the head of research at the Kenya Bankers Association and argues that the housing market is in the process of correcting itself.
For 4 consecutive quarters, we've seen negative prices. And that to us is a clear signal of a correction that is happening in the market. And therefore, speaking to how demand and supply dynamics have adjusted in the circumstances making the market start looking downward.
In our status of the built environment report for the last half of last year, this came out predominantly that there's a glut in the market in terms of an oversupply. So demand and supply are not matching up in this bracket of houses, which are ranging from middle income to high income. There are some areas that came out in that report that houses are not moving, and they are in the higher income, Kitusuru, Lower Kabete, they're not moving. When you look at Kileleshwa, Kilimani, there's a large glut of those houses.
In essence, what we are witnessing in the housing market with prices cooling off after years of a steady rise is a reflection of an imbalance between demand and supply. In a situation where we have excess supply, then prices generally begin to stagnate and in extreme cases, decline. Available data from the Kenya National Bureau of Statistics gives an indication of what could have happened around the supply of residential property. Between 1999 and 2003, an average of 1,051